Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the AEW Dynamite review. And this is going to be a review of last night's edition of Dynamite, which was the March 25th edition. And last night's Dynamite, of course, was from Daily's Place in Jacksonville. And I DVR'd Dynamite, and I watched it earlier today. And this week's Dynamite, I thought it was an okay show. It wasn't the best, though, but it was just a okay show. And we saw Cody Rhodes versus Jimmy Havoc. We also saw Darby Allin versus Kip Sabian. We also saw Brodie Lee in his AEW in-ring debut, the Exalted One, Brodie Lee. And he took on QT Marshall. We also had the confrontation between Jericho and Matt Hardy. And we also saw Kenny Omega versus Sammy Guevara for the AAA Mega Championship, which Kenny Omega holds that title. But I mean, this week's Dynamite didn't have some of their roster, the superstars, out, at ringside because they want more protection. So we had Tony Schiavone and Cody Rhodes on commentary last night. And also, Kenny Omega was on commentary with the both of them. So, but all in all, like I said, Dynamite was an okay show. So let's get on with the Dynamite review. So Dynamite opened up last night with Cody Rhodes versus Jimmy Havoc. Of course, like I said, Cody Rhodes was on commentary. He took his headset off, made his way down to the ring. And, of course, Jim Ross, Excalibur, and Taz weren't on the show last night for commentary because it was just Tony Schiavone, Cody, and Kenny Omega. So Cody made his way to the ring, and then Jimmy Havoc ended up coming out. And the match itself, it was very slow, in my opinion. It was a slow match. Wasn't bad by any means. You had Cody working on Havoc. He ended up dropping Havoc for, to try to get pins. They were all one counts because Havoc ended up kicking out of it. Havoc ended up working on Cody's arm, but Cody ended up reversing it. Ended up trading more pin attempts. And at the end of the match, you had Cody win the match. End up hitting a reverse suplex to Jimmy Havoc. And then Cody ends up hitting the crossroads. Goes for the pin. There you go. Cody Rhodes ends up winning the match, defeating Jimmy Havoc. And during the match, we saw the guys. I think we saw like Billy Gunn, Jericho was back there, where it had like a split screen where the match was happening, and then watching the match from backstage, which I thought that was cool. But Cody ended up winning the match. Like I said, but overall, wasn't a bad match, but it was very slow. It was a very slow match, in my opinion. So then, post-match, Cody ends up inviting his wife, Brandy Rhodes, into the ring. Ends up giving her a kiss. And we had a video message from Jake the Snake Roberts. Roberts ended up saying that Lance Archer is chomping at the bit to get in the ring with someone. Roberts ended up saying that Cody helped get the company going, and Jake Roberts ended up saying he doesn't get a call. That he didn't get a call when Cody ended up setting up the company. Helping the company get going. So Lance Archer, he ends up saying Lance Archer does what he did in Japan, and he thought that AEW was afraid to bring him in because they saw what Lance Archer did there in Japan. So Roberts ended up saying that all he is asking is for Lance Archer to get one match with Cody. And Roberts was saying to Cody, "Oh, bring anyone you want. Bring Arn Anderson. Bring your wife, Brandy Rhodes. Bring the Elite, Matt or Nick Jackson or Kenny Omega." And he ends up saying that it's up to Cody. Trust me. And that was how it ended. But Jake Roberts right here proves that he could still cut a great promo. Really liked what he had to say, and looks like we might see Cody versus Lance Archer. That would be pretty interesting match to see. And then after the video message from Jake Roberts, Cody ended up coming back on commentary. He says that his left elbow might need a look-see at. And Cody ended up saying that Roberts' message comes across bitter and jaded. And Cody ends up saying next, Lance Archer can debut in the ring. So then after that, we had a promo from Darby Allin. Darby ends up saying that he doesn't see anything super bad about him. They are just words. He ended up saying that he comes across super bad people, and he learned the hard way. And we saw Darby Allin end up wearing masks of the Inner Circle, Sammy Guevara, Santana, Ortiz, Hager, and Jericho. And we saw Darby Allin put gas on the masks, and he ends up lighting the table on fire with the masks on them. And we hear Darby Allin end up saying that Kip Sabian will pay for the sins for the Inner Circle. So very good promo from Darby Allin. I'm loving how these Darby Allin promos are, coming out in the whole black and white, format, cinematic format, which, I like. Then we had Darby Allin versus Kip Sabian. Match itself was very meh, in my opinion. Kip Sabian, of course, came out with Penelope Ford. Darby Allin, once the match started, he ended up working on Kip Sabian. Goes for an early pin. Sabian ended up kicking out at 2. And Kip Sabian ended up going out of the ring, going out for a breather. Darby Allin ended up hitting a springboard arm drag. Sabian then headed back out to the ring. And there was a point in the match where Penelope Ford was getting involved, pulling Sabian out of the way. And at the end of the match, Darby Allin ended up hitting the Last Supper, as they would call it, which is a Gibson leg lock. And so, because of that, Darby Allin ended up winning, defeating Kip Sabian. But overall, match itself, very meh. my opinion. I like Darby Allin, but the match came off very meh. And Darby Allin, was already over. This guy, I sense that he's going to be going after, the titles, very soon because of, how over he is. I mean, he should be, he should get a shot soon at, a title. At maybe the AEW world title. Who knows? But I could see AEW giving Darby Allin, a shot later on in the future. So then, after Darby Allin versus Kip Sabian, we had Jake Hager versus Chico Adams. And before the match, we saw a video promo of Jake Hager, and they were showing clips of what he did here in AEW and in Bellator MMA. So the match itself, right here, Jake Hager versus Chico Adams, it was a squash match. Hager starts off the match. He ends up throwing Chico Adams into the ring post, delivers Vader Bomb, Hager ends up driving his knee into Chico's back. Chico Adams ends up delivering a punch. He ends up dodging a clothesline from Hager, hits a clothesline to Hager. And Hager then ends up planting Chico Adams to the canvas, locks in the triangle submission, and Chico Adams ends up passing out. Referee ends up calling for the bell. So Hager ends up winning the match by referee stoppage because, like I said, Hager ended up locking in the arm triangle, the submission move. So Hager ends up winning the match. Post-match, Jon Moxley came out. He ended up coming out. They traded off shots, Moxley and Hager. Moxley then ends up delivering the paradigm shift on Hager. Hager then gets back up, tries to go for the ankle lock to Moxley, but Moxley ends up getting out of the ankle lock. He ends up sending Hager to the floor. Hager ended up trying to get back in the ring, but Moxley ended up swinging the title, the AEW World title at him. And then Hager ends up deciding to head out, backstage. And Moxley was saying, he was heard saying, "Oh, you're walking away." So then Hager, made his way to the back. And that was basically that, but it was a squash match between Hager and Chico Adams. This was just a way to make Hager look much more stronger and build him up even more. Then when Dynamite came back from the commercial, Moxley is shown backstage, and Moxley ends up saying that he told Hager to watch his blind spot. He says he's out for blood, and Hager ended up, Moxley ended up saying that Hager may have walked out tonight. But when the title is up for grabs, Hager won't be walking away. He will be getting carted out, as what Moxley has said. So that's what Moxley ended up having to say. Then we went and saw Brodie Lee, the Exalted One, Brodie Lee. And it showed a video package from last week when he was revealed as the Exalted One. Sorry about that, but I was saying, we saw a video package from last week with Brodie Lee when he was revealed as the Exalted One. And we went to this little segment where we saw Brodie Lee. He was eating a steak. He was talking with Alex Reynolds and John Silver. Brodie Lee ended up saying that he doesn't think Reynolds and Silver get it. He ended up saying it's strength in numbers, and they will prey on the weak. So Silver ends up going to eat, and Brodie Lee ends up stopping him. He ended up saying to John Silver, "Does it look like I'm done?" So Brodie Lee ends up kicking John Silver out. He ends up telling Alex Reynolds, "You don't eat until I'm done." Alex Reynolds then sneezes, which made Brodie Lee mad. And he ends up kicking Alex Reynolds out of the room. So, and that was basically that. But really liked this whole little thing with Brodie Lee, the Exalted One. I know that the sneeze from Alex Reynolds is a cheap shot to Vince McMahon, because Vince McMahon, whenever anybody, like when any other superstars, like I guess, eat near him and if somebody sneezes, Vince didn't like that. So Brodie Lee has taken shots at Vince McMahon. But that was basically that. I really liked this little thing with Brodie Lee. And then we have Brodie Lee versus QT Marshall. Brodie Lee came out with one of the Dark Order minions. So the match got underway, which the match itself, it was a short match. It was another squash match. Brodie Lee ended up dropping QT Marshall with a big kick. This is right when the bell rang. He ended up sending QT to the floor. Brodie Lee ended up throwing QT into the apron, then into the barricade. Delivered some big chops to QT's chest. He ends up sending him back into the ring. Lee ended up hitting a senton, a slingshot senton, a running elbow to QT Marshall. He did a few running elbows. And the match ended with Brodie Lee hitting a discus lariat to QT Marshall for the pin. There you go. Brodie Lee ended up winning the match. Squash match. This match was just put on to see, how, Brodie Lee, really is in the ring. So, the guy, Brodie Lee, he's going to be big here in AEW. Going to be treated a lot better than how he was in WWE when he was Luke Harper. AEW is going to do him better. And then we saw Matt Hardy's drone. Of course, we all know Matt Hardy's drone is Vanguard 1. So Vanguard 1 ended up traveling to California. And he ended up checking on Nick Jackson, who, of course, Nick Jackson is injured because of the Inner Circle attacking him. So it was shown from Vanguard 1, it was showing that Nick Jackson was working out in his garage. And it was shown that Vanguard 1 was scanning Nick Jackson. And it was shown that Nick Jackson, coming from Vanguard 1, ended up saying that Nick is apparently healed, 61% healed. And so Nick ends up finally noticing Vanguard 1. He ends up walking over to Vanguard 1, but Vanguard 1 ends up flying away from Nick Jackson. So it looks right here that Nick Jackson is almost healed, and he'll be back really soon. Then we had Kenny Omega versus Sammy Guevara, where the AAA, the AAA Mega Championship that Kenny Omega holds was on the line. And the match, I have to say, it was a decent match between the both of them. It was back and forth between Omega and Guevara. Guevara ended up getting frustrated on over Kenny Omega. He ends up sending Kenny Omega out to the floor, after delivering a drop kick. Guevara then ended up tossing Kenny Omega into the ring post, and Omega was launched into the barricade from Guevara. Omega ended up fighting back, ended up sending Guevara to the barricade, and then we went back in the ring. Guevara ended up looking to lock in a cross arm break to Kenny Omega, and Omega ended up lifting Guevara on the shoulders. Guevara then was shown biting Kenny Omega's hand. And at the end of the match, you had Kenny Omega end up delivering a V-trigger, but 2 V-triggers to Sammy Guevara. So after the second V-trigger, Omega ended up delivering and hitting the one-winged angel on Guevara. There you go. Kenny Omega ended up winning the match, retaining the AAA Mega Championship. But decent match from Kenny Omega and Guevara. Really liked it. And then and that was the main event, though. But then we get to the confrontation between Jericho and Matt Hardy. And I gotta say, I really enjoyed this whole thing. Really enjoyed this confrontation. And I think this is going to be setting up Jericho and Matt Hardy at some point going at it one-on-one. So Jericho ended up heading to the ring. And Jericho ends up taking the camera from the cameraman. And he has the camera pointed on the camera guy while the camera guy was singing Judas, which was funny. And Jericho ends up, saying, he was recapping Matt Hardy joining the Elite. Jericho ends up calling them arrogant sons of bitches. And he ended up saying that he'll give Matt Hardy a chance to make the right decision. And that right decision for Jericho is him wanting Matt Hardy to join the Inner Circle. So then we see Vanguard 1 flying in. And Vanguard 1 looks at Jericho. And so Jericho is then taking shots at Vanguard 1, ends up saying that he doesn't like Vanguard 1. He calls Vanguard 1 a piece of shit. And stupidly enough, which it's funny and stupid at the same time, Jericho ends up asking Vanguard 1 to join the Inner Circle. I'm like, Jericho is asking a drone, to join the Inner Circle. Which it was funny and stupid at the same time, though. But hey, how is a drone gonna answer, to answer Jericho and join the Inner Circle? So then Jericho ends up touting, the benefits of joining the Inner Circle to Vanguard 1. And then the Vanguard 1 flies away from Jericho. And then we get Matt Hardy's music ends up hitting. And I really liked how this was done. So we saw Matt Hardy, he was in the Raptors, just like how we saw him last week at the end of Dynamite. And the camera ends up blipping. And it's shown that he's in the middle row. And then he's then in the lower part of the Daily's place. And he appears outside of ringside. And I thought this was really cool how they did it. I really liked how the way it was cool. It was something different. Sorry about that, but I was saying, it was something different that was done. And Jericho ends up saying to Matt Hardy, how did you do that? Matt Hardy ends up saying, I am magic. And Jericho says that this show and promotion was built on his back. And that Matt Hardy should align himself with the Inner Circle and not the Elite. So Matt Hardy ended up saying that he owed Mad Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks, because both of them resurrected broken Matt Hardy. And Matt Hardy ended up saying that he's witnessed what the Inner Circle has been doing in AEW. And he ends up saying that to him, AEW is freedom. And that the Inner Circle cannot ruin this paradise. And Jericho ended up going on to say that he has resurrected careers. He resurrected Jake Hager's career. He's the one who brought Jon Moxley into AEW. He brought Santana, Ortiz, and Sammy Guevara. So Matt Hardy ends up saying that Jericho may know his vessel, but he is Damascus, and that he is 3,000 years old. And so Jericho ends up understanding reinvention. He ends up bringing up Matt Hardy's always living in the shadow of his brother, and the shadow of bad booking, which of course Jericho taking shots at Jeff Hardy and WWE Creative. Once again, he did that with Jake Hager when the crowd was chanting, "We the people." And, he said that was just a stupid idea that came from bad creative. But then Matt Hardy ends up saying that he is not any longer. He's brighter than ever. So Jericho ends up saying to Matt Hardy, is he with the Elite or the Inner Circle? Matt ends up yelling, "Delete!" Jericho ends up saying to Matt Hardy, "That's not what I asked." And he wants an answer. And then Matt yells, "Delete!" once again. So then Jericho and Matt, they were bickering. Matt Hardy was going, "Delete, And then Jericho was going, Elite, delete, Elite, delete. It was funny though. But Jericho ends up telling Matt Hardy to stop because there's nobody here, and that there is no one to hear his chant, or his stupid chant, referring to as what Jericho ended up saying. Then Matt Hardy ends up saying there actually is. He says there are senses all over. He ends up bringing up people singing Judas. And Matt Hardy ends up saying that he has a song for Jericho. And he ends up singing the obsolete song. So Jericho is shown taking his glasses off. He says he doesn't see anything but a broken down old Matt Hardy. So Jericho ends up slapping Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy punches Jericho. Jericho goes back first. Matt Hardy ends up knocking Jericho to the canvas. And Jericho ended up telling Matt Hardy that he can do magic himself. And so Sammy Guevara ends up showing up. He ends up attacking Matt Hardy from behind. And that leads to both Cody Rhodes and Kenny Omega running down from the commentary table. They had chairs. They end up hitting chair shots to Jericho and Guevara. They cleared the both of them out of the ring. And looks like they go to make, a run back to the ring, the inner circle, Jericho and Guevara. Fire ends up shooting off. And it's shown that Matt Hardy was able to control the fire going off. But that's basically how Dynamite ended last night. But like I said, I really enjoyed this confrontation between Jericho and Matt Hardy. Like I said, I like the camera blips that they did for Matt Hardy, where it was shown of him in the Raptors, and then he was in the middle row, then cut to the lower part of the Daily's place, and how Matt Hardy appeared outside. I thought that was, something different for AEW TV. So, but really enjoyed this whole confrontation. Yeah, anyways, that's it for the AEW Dynamite review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. And definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. And I will see you all later. I will see you all tomorrow night for the SmackDown review. So until then, see you all tomorrow night.